today, and now you feel fat today also. You're welcome. And now there's a podcast.
Hello, Happy New Year. Welcome to I Feel Fat Today. I'm your host, Kelly Taylor. We're doing it. 2025. We're here. It's Friday, January 10th, when you are listening to this. Thank you so much for joining. Congratulations. You made it to the new year. Happy New Year. There's been a lot of discourse in my office about whether or not you can say Happy New Year this late in the game. I think you have into the second Friday of January for Happy New Year. I think that should be the blanket rule. And you can get away with it a little bit this coming week, but don't abuse it. You know, do it if you're in sales and you're trying to get into talking with a client, then you can say Happy New Year, but you got to cut it out after this coming week. You're done. We are fully in the new year, and it is going horribly globally. Personally, it's been fine, knock on wood. I cannot complain at all. But yeah, we'll get into that. Welcome back, 2025. Subscribe to us on YouTube. If you are not subscribed, please. We are so close to 400 subscribers. I was kind of going through my resolutions from last year, and I think I can't remember if I wanted to fit 500 or 1,000, and we didn't do it, but whatever. I wasn't really focused last year. So please subscribe to us on YouTube. It would mean the world to me. You can see the full video episodes of every single episode of I Feel Fat Today over on YouTube. Comment on the videos, and subscribe. Please subscribe. I don't know what else to say to you besides begging. I'm on my hands and knees begging you to subscribe to my podcast on YouTube. And then after you do that, head over to Apple Podcasts where you can rate and review. Give us a 5-star review. The more reviews we have on Apple, the more people can find us. Okay? If you'd like advice, you can send an email to us at ifeelfattoday@gmail.com. I would love to read it out and give some advice. When I first opened the email, I had people writing in and people were asking for advice. And it wasn't, then the well dried up. And I think you will find after this episode, even though I didn't give a ton of advice, I have good ideas. And so I recommend you do that. Send us an email. I'd love to hear from you. And then finally, follow us on social media at I Feel Fat Today. And then me, your host, Kelly Taylor, at Hello, This is Kelly. The more followers I get, the more I can perform on shows. And then the more you as fans can see me perform stand-up. I'm not just a podcaster. I'm a comedian. Life update. Man, we're here in the new year. I don't want to talk a lot because I am excited for you to meet our guest this week and enjoy this week's episode. The conversation we had was so fruitful and so good, and I'm so excited for you to listen. But life update. I personally, like I said, I'm doing pretty good. But I have to say, there's always something horrible happening in the world. It's hard to not feel some kind of melancholy because of what's happening in the world. And it feels almost unavoidable to not, come across some devastating video of war footage across your Twitter feed. But as of recently, these fires in LA are just devastating. And so I've been feeling down about that. Everyone feel bad for me? No, that's not what I mean. It's awful. It's horrible. And it's so terrifying that this is happening. And you start to think what would I take if I needed to evacuate? And, I never really had any interest in being any sort of doomsday prepper because you always think if something big is going to happen, I'm not just take me away with it. But in reality, if something big were to happen, you would try to survive. And now I'm thinking about my animals and whatever. And so just has me thinking about, being grateful about where I am and feeling so awful for people dealing with the fires. And I think people think, oh, LA it's filled with movie stars. And yeah, Paris Hilton is losing their houses. And, you see celebrities post about the fact that they've, lost their houses. But Los Angeles is filled with everyday working people. And it's just so much devastation. And so not to start out on a downer, but I am thinking about everybody and trying to figure out where I can, donate money to help some relief. If you, the listener, if you find something reputable to send money to, please send my way. I want to help in any way that I can. And if this podcast made any money, all of the proceeds of this week's episode or this month's episodes would go there. But that hasn't happened yet because Poppy refuses to sponsor me. Okay. What else? Something I want to talk about because it's touched on a little bit in the episode coming up is I talk a little bit about this new I almost said diet regimen. No, I'm talking about this new sort of exercise endeavor that I'm going on. And I thought it'd be good to talk about here on the pod because I am somebody that has treated diet and exercise like an all or nothing thing the entirety of my life. And then I found myself in a place in my late 20s where I refused to exercise. It was like in my, in the healing and unlearning of being in the binge restrict cycle, I kind of developed this stance where I didn't want to hear anything about exercise. If friends offered to do a workout class, I wanted nothing to do with it. And so much of it was fear because I felt like I wouldn't be able to complete it. And whatever the story was, I was telling myself that caused me to, not want to exercise at all, was happening. And then all of a sudden there's just something that shifted in my experience where all of a sudden I had this want and this desire to work out, to move my body. And that kind of hit me a few weeks ago. And you may have seen like on YouTube and on Instagram, I posted these vlogs of like trying a certain workout for the first time. And the reason why I posted those was because I wanted to show a random user of Instagram or TikTok or whatever that like you can go from doing literally nothing to going and working out and trying something for the first time. You can do that. Even if it ends up being a catastrophic failure, you can do that. And so, I got a new job in the last few weeks, and this new job has given me the opportunity to have access to something called Gym Pass, which I didn't have before for a few reasons. And now I have access to it because I think so much of what stops people from exercising is not having access. If I were to walk into a yoga studio in my neighborhood, it's going to run me like $400 a month. And so luckily I have this Gym Pass. And so for like way less money per month, because my work supplements some of it, I am able to try all these different kinds of workout classes. And so the day after Thanksgiving, I just said to myself, I'm going to try Pure Barre. I'm going to try barre class. And I just thought, I want to feel better. I'm not trying to lose weight. I am doing this purely so that I can get the benefits of the fact that I just worked out. So I do the class. It was so hard. It was so difficult, but I did it. And I just had this feeling of like, I want to get better at this. And it kind of just set me off on this journey. I hate the word journey, but it kind of just set me off on this path where that's not any better, but where I'm just, trying to get better at this one thing. And so now I'm kind of in this weird place where I have been working out consistently and I am feeling so good, but I have to not get evangelical about it. I have to not try to convert people into like coming to bar class with me if you're not somebody that like enjoys working out, or, coming with me to go to yoga if that's like not your thing, because I have to make this about me and I have to decenter weight loss. And so I haven't stepped on the scale, and I am not doing this at all in the hopes of working out. That is not my main focus. I am not tracking my calories. I am not tracking if I'm losing or gaining weight. I am simply telling myself that I want to reap the benefits of working out, and I'm noticing how I feel on the days that I work out and the days that I don't, and just like trying that on for size. And I'll report on how I'm feeling about it. I did set a goal for 2025 of hitting 100 Pure Barre classes in a year, which I think is completely feasible, because if there's 52 weeks in a year and I go twice a year, then that's 100. And I've already gotten a head start because I started really going in December. And I just think that like having an attainable goal that still was something I really had to work at is really good for me. And I've just happened to be in the headspace where like, this is what I want to set out for myself, because I feel like there is so much pressure at the start of the year to have resolutions. And I did a whole episode at the beginning of last year where I, wrote out these lengthy goals, and none of it came to fruition. I got some things done, but not in the name of the fact that it was a resolution, because I think part of what was on my resolution list was to like go to the dentist and like, go to the doctors, which all things that happened out of necessity. So that's sort of where I am right now. I'm going to report back on it, but, I bring all this up to say that even though I just said I'm not tracking if I'm losing weight, I am not intentionally counting calories, I'm working out just to feel good, the programming is still there. So when I do go to make a meal, buy a meal, whatever, I am still mentally calculating the calories, because that is what I have done my entire life. 5 years old was when I became conscious of the fact that people can adjust the way that they eat in order to change their bodies. I'm 32 now. I'm in my 33rd year of life. And so I'm it's not going to change tomorrow. And just because I don't have it perfect doesn't mean I shouldn't, try to adopt a new routine, just because like there's still this part of me that wants to track calories, even though I'm saying I'm not doing it. I'm not writing food down because I know that that's just going to lead me down a path of destruction. I'm not stepping on the scale because I know that's just going to throw me off. Because when I get into this idea that exercising and let's just stick on exercising. When I get to this place of like exercising is going to lead to weight loss, if I travel and go a week without exercising, I have this like all or nothing mentality, and I throw the baby out with the bathwater, and I'm no longer exercising anymore, and I'm no longer reaping the benefits of like, having more mobility or whatever it is. I go into that a little bit on this week's episode with my guest, so you'll hear more about it. But it's just interesting. It's an interesting thing I wanted to bring up, of how like, even though I'm going into this with the intention of just like movement, and challenge myself to get up at 7 a.m. and to challenge myself to go to bed by 11 p.m. to ensure that I get, a full 7 or 8 hours, whatever the case may be, it's such a different way to approach it. And yet I am still having things come up in the back of my mind that I cannot control. I cannot control that there is a little voice in the back of my head that is saying like, you don't want to do this for weight loss, but if you keep working out, it could lead to weight loss, which would be fucking awesome. Like, that's still there. I might not be consciously tracking my calories, but I know that 90 calories are in a fried egg. And I can see on the nutrition facts that an English muffin is 120 calories. And so it just takes some simple math to all of a sudden calculate that my breakfast ends up being 400 calories. You know, that's still going to be there. And I can't just throw my hands up and say, well, I can't try this new healthy endeavor because all of these toxic things are coming in. No, this is all you've known. This is all I've known. So, I don't know. Just wanted to bring that up as a topic of conversation. Can you relate? Is that something that you've thought about or dealt with? Or are you going into the new year with this thought of I'm going to eat right, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to be healthy, I'm going to do this, I'm going to stop scrolling on social media? Are you doing any of that? Because I'm not. I'm just going to try to do 100 Pure Barre classes. And I'm going to try to make this the best podcast ever because more people need to listen to it. Yeah, I think that's all I got for now. I think there was something else I wanted to bring up, but it'll have to wait till next week. Yeah, we'll bring on today's guests. I'm so excited to be back. That break that I took was really, really good. I think what I want to be better at is planning the breaks because, yeah, it made sense that I didn't put out an episode the week of Christmas. And I guess I can kind of call it a mulligan that I didn't put out an episode the, week of New Year's. I could have just prepared my listeners and said that episodes weren't coming out those 2 weeks instead of just assuming that everyone would be fine with that. So I'm going to try to be better about planning weeks and like if it's a holiday week and I'm not going to put out an episode to tell you in advance, that kind of thing. You've heard the same excuses from me the past 2 years. So I'm on the pursuit of getting better. I'm a one-woman show. I'm trying my best. Okay. That's it. We're going to bring on this week's guest. We had a lovely conversation. Do want to say a little bit of a trigger warning. We talk about weights a lot. Lots of numbers were coming into play. So if that's not your jam, just be prepared. But it was really, really insightful conversation from someone about just lifelong weight loss, weight gain, redefining the relationship with that, where they are now. And I loved it. And it was with a really dear friend. So please welcome to the podcast this week, our guest, stand-up comedian, Matt Pena. No, thank you for coming on, Matt. I'm so excited. Like, you were one of the comics that were on my list where I'm like, oh, I gotta hit him up. And I'm so glad I did.
Yeah, no, and just for the listeners who might not know, we met all the way back. We took Kevin Dombrowski's stand-up class way before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to pay you this one compliment before we get started, which is that, you were one of these people I saw on stage and I was just like, oh, she's got it. You know what I mean? No, I'm serious. Yeah, 100%. I remember. And because I feel like when you're taking those classes so early, and this is nothing against people in the class, but the people who are in it maybe just to like work on public speaking and stuff, but you went up and you destroyed, I think, the first time you went up. So it was I'm so happy to be here and I'm so happy to know you. My goodness.
Yeah, because taking that class, I can't remember if you were in because I took 2 classes through Laughing Buddha.
Okay.
Once when I was like 6 months in, and another one when I was like maybe a year and some change.
Okay.
And so maybe it was the second one that I met you in.
Sure.
And literally the first time I took the class was because it was like the class that I took was like intro to hosting or something. And I was like, oh, this feels like a skill. I can like learn how to host and then be like an asset to like get on shows. Cause I don't even know how to get on shows now. Like never mind back then.
Yeah, it's its own skill.
Yeah, entirely. And so, I, obviously wanted to learn how to write, but also to meet people. And like,
yes.
I follow still some people on Facebook and Instagram that we like did the class with, but not many are still doing stand up.
I know. And
it might just be you and I
really think so. And that's like kind of what I was alluding to, but and again, you're so funny. And even to way back when I started, because I run a show in Hoboken at the local bookstore, which has been a huge success since you've done it. You did the first show there, which was so fun.
It was packed.
It was awesome. And what's great is like we've grown in popularity to now where we do it twice a month, which is awesome.
Love.
So, but because I've been so busy with a lot of different stuff, we might have to go back to once a month, which is kind of bittersweet.
Right.
But it's really, we got so much great feedback. So much, it was really cool because like a defining moment was I went out after a show once. Do you know Catherine Duffy? By
Yeah,
any chance?
familiar.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So she actually came to a show and we were like out having a drink after a show, and we ran into these people and we just started talking. They were like, "Oh, where are you coming from?" And I was like, "Oh, I run the comedy show at the bookstore." They were like, "You do the comedy show at the bookstore?" And they had like heard about it from other people. So it's just really cool, you know.
No,
like
that's awesome. And Hoboken is such like a good spot for comedy because it's lacking.
100%. So we're trying to get a scene out there. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up with you is you're from Jersey.
I am.
Which I just listened to because I just listened to the episode with Jess Levin, which go listen to if you haven't already.
Great episode.
I did not know you were from Jersey. Oh my God.
Yes, where you're from Jersey?
Well, so I'm from Long Island.
Okay.
So I was part of that group that you and Jess talk about a little bit where it's like people are always just kind of like shitting on. Can we just curse on here?
Oh, yeah, you're
okay,
fine.
perfect. Where they were just like shit on Jersey and stuff. And then I actually had some college friends move out there. And then I eventually followed them out there and then found my current girlfriend who I live with. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing out here.
Yeah.
And I kind of have a theory. I think it's because New York people need to keep rents high. So they just like shit on New Jersey
For sure.
to just like keep it like a well-kept secret. I'm just like, I think, but you know how.
Because you live in Hoboken, right?
I do. So I live in Hoboken with my girlfriend. I met her at Pier 13 for those that might know the area.
I
Have you
love
been
it.
there?
Oh my God.
Pier 13.
Matt,
Oh.
I used to not I didn't used to live in Hoboken. I used to live in
Oh,
Hoboken.
my
Like I
God.
like couch surfed through Hoboken at all my friends' apartments.
I love that
Because
so
I went
much.
to college in North Jersey,
Where'd you go to school?
Montclair.
Oh my God, our best friends live out there.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Montclair
yeah.
so much.
Isn't
yeah.
it so lovely?
It really
And
is.
so it's so funny because like I don't feel old, but like it is so funny to be like, wow, we didn't have Uber in college. Like I literally we would call cabs and we would drive 40 minutes
Sure.
to Hoboken.
Yeah.
You know, and so like we just went out in Hoboken all the time. And then just like post college, like there was, even though I was living in Brooklyn, it's so easy to get to Hoboken.
It's so easy.
Like I know you drove.
Yes.
But if you took the train here, you literally just would have had to take the path to 14th Street, gotten on the L, and been there.
And I do. And what's so great is I have so many Brooklyn comic friends, and
Yeah.
it's like it's an hour to get there, and it feels no different than like if I had a show like on the Upper West Side or Upper East Side.
No,
or something.
totally.
It's the same amount of time. I love it out there so much. We met at Pier 13. I met my girlfriend in person, if you can believe
Yes,
it.
I love it.
Which was so great. There was a very awkward encounter because I was with my buddy, and it was one of those moments like because I saw my girlfriend and I was like. I tell her all the time. She reminds me. She looks like Rory from Gilmore Girls.
Oh my gosh.
Which I think she's beautiful.
Yeah,
My
you just showed me a photo. She does.
Yes, yeah, okay, perfect. No, I'm glad you agree because my girlfriend like hates that I bring that up because she like doesn't like how she looks or anything. But she gets Sophie Turner a lot from
Okay.
from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I went with my buddy and I saw her and I was like, okay, let's go talk to these girls. So we both go, and I walk up to her. She's with her best friend Anna, and I go, excuse me, my friend has the opening line. I was like, he's got it right here. And I turn around. He's not there.
Oh my
He's
God.
20 feet away. And they were like, who's your friend? I was like, hold on, give him one. Let's wait for him to walk over. So I call him over. We call him Pants is his nickname. But I call him over. And it's like a solid 15, 20 seconds of just like awkward silence. Like nobody's saying anything. And then he finally gets over. I was like, oh, Pants, like, tell him like what you want to say. And he was like, oh, right. So like, if like two guys see like two really hot girls at a bar, like what should they say? And then Taylor's friend was like, I don't know. And I went into like kind of like my friend calls it showman mode, which is like I'm sure can relate is like your comic stage persona.
Yeah.
And so I kind of like tried to save it and do whatever. And then finally my buddy comes over like a slice of pizza. He's like, what are you guys talking about? So then it was like fine, but I'm not really getting a vibe with Taylor. And I'm, so I kind of like try to fade away and I tap her on the shoulder. I'm like, hey, it was really nice meeting you, but I think I'm just going to go. And she puts her hand on my shoulder and she goes, oh, you're leaving? And I was like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here. We can hang out for the whole night. And we did. And it was
I
really
love
great.
it. Do you think
Yeah.
you would have had the confidence to approach her by yourself?
So here's where I was in my life. And actually it ties very nicely into our weight loss conversation, or not weight loss, I should say, but just our conversation about weight
Weight-centric.
Weight-centric. Thank you. Because I do want to, I've had such a journey with it where I've fluctuated and
I love
all
it.
that stuff. So
I'm
I
so
think
excited to get into it.
I was very excited when you asked me to have me on because I was like, I have a journey.
Yay.
Would I have had the confidence to approach her myself? I think because where I was in my life, yes. I do like having the added wingman effect. It just makes for like an easier conversation. But it was because I was in a point in my life where I really, and not to sound cheesy, I really manifested finding my person because right? And when I say manifested, I think there's some people I think are tempted to just think, oh, I want to like, I'm just going to manifest this. I'm just going to think about it. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
But that's not, to me, what manifestation is.
That's not what manifesting is.
It's really about, I said to myself, I'm going to find my person this year, and I changed my actions to do it.
I love it.
Right? So I would like, I was approaching people at bars.
Yeah.
I was being, active on dating apps and stuff like that. I was doing things to do it. So I think it's a result of the stuff I was doing.
Right.
When
you were approaching people at bars, do you have any like gnarly rejection stories?
Oh my God, do I? There was one time I was with my friend in Philly in college. I don't know. I think it was before this time actually, but we were in college and we were just like trying to like hit on girls or whatever. And like we just like walked up to two girls like without a game plan.
Right.
And it was just like one of those like, hey, like, like just like we didn't have anything to say. And they were like, what? And we were like, we started like trying to like make up a story. I was like, yeah, Brian's a lacrosse player and like Matt's on the debate team. And like we just couldn't get our cohesive story together.
Right.
So they just walked away. And it was just, so, but, plenty of rejection stories for sure.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the manifesting, because like it seems like you manifested the life you have now.
I mean, not to be cheesy, but I really did. And a lot of it centers around like gratitude and stuff. I think that's really the key to everything is what I've learned. But I think it goes back, and I think it ties nicely into our weight-centric conversation. So just kind of going back,
yes.
I'd love to kind of walk you through it if that's okay.
Take it away. You're the best guest.
You're the best. So when I was very young, first off, my parents don't have great eating habits. I come from a family of like very high cholesterol and stuff like that. And while I was growing up, I just always sort of went to food as like a reward. So I'll give you an example. Whenever my mom would take us to the dentist, we would always get McDonald's after, which I don't fault her for at all. One, it's great. I still do it today. Like I still go to McDonald's after the dentist, but it was just kind of that relationship with food where it's like, okay, if I'm good, I can, have this fast food. But it got to a point, I was like 10 or something, and I would go to the pediatrician. They would be like, what do you have for breakfast? And I would say, oh, I put maple syrup on bacon and I eat that.
Yeah.
And my doctor was like, you cannot do that.
Right.
And I remember my dad and mom having a conversation, which I not in front of me, but years later, they were like, we're worried Matt's going to be obese when he grows up. So it was like, so it was a concern with me rather than my other brothers because I was very picky.
Right.
But what ended up happening was I went to middle school and I made some friends who ended up going out for the cross country team. So now I'm like 12 or 13 at this point. And what ends up happening is I start exercising every day. And what's weird is I remember I lose my appetite kind of, which is very weird to think about. Like I just stopped being as hungry as I was, maybe because I was moving or just going through like so many bodily changes at that time. But it's because like from that age to college, I was a thin, relatively muscular person. And what ended up happening was I started getting more attention from girls at that point, which I know I feel like you've had guests on in the past where you talk about so much of it is you get addicted to like how you look almost, and so much of my life has been doing things to get validation from women. That has been a lot of my motivation because I was a kid growing up. I always wanted a girlfriend. Always so badly. Yeah. And I think you talked about it on the episode with Jess where you were like, I love this line. I think you say like, I don't even care. Like I just, who's ever available.
I'll take anything.
Yeah. So, so I did. So that was kind of like my middle school journey and I started getting attention. Hi, Finny. Attention from girls. And I was like, oh, if I'm thin and I have a nice body, I can be attractive to people.
Right.
So then when I go to college now, so in high school, I'm like relatively thin and, have this, kind of, like muscular, whatever. Then in college, I make it like my hobby was like working out.
Right.
I found this guy that like used to compete like as like a power body lifter type guy. And we start working out like every day in between classes. And I remember at the time, which is so funny to think about now at 29, I couldn't gain weight. I couldn't break 150 was my goal. I remember, and I was like, always so frustrated. I started taking this thing called Serious Mass, which Kelly, Serious Mass, 1,250 calories per serving.
Oh my God. Was that like a scoop?
It was a scoop. That's actually how I got introduced to marijuana. Was I would smoke to increase my appetite to gain this weight, which I think about now as a 29-year-old man. And I'm like, God, I wish for that metabolism.
You like Regina George, like meal barred yourself.
Yes, 100%.
Literally,
yes.
but like willingly.
100%. So I remember I would I would come home from class, smoke weed, and then just like force this powder into my body.
It's not even it's not even McDonald's.
No, it's not even good
fun
stuff.
calories.
No, it's not even fun. I remember like drinking it and like utterly not having fun.
Because usually, like when you're drinking or eating something that to change your body, it's usually because it's like, okay, I'm doing this so I'll lose weight. You were literally doing it to like gain weight, and obviously, we're not talking about like body mass. We're talking, you obviously wanted to gain muscle, but still.
Right. No, 100%. So I was like so misinformed. I'm just like trying to eat as much as I can. And I just remember so distinctly, I could not break 150 pounds. And I remember feeling so bad about myself for it, which like, because so much of my self-image related to my body image, which I feel like is so relatable, especially today. And I do want to make it known, like it is, whatever I'm saying is 10 times harder for women. Like without, I'm not going to sit here and be like, it's hard. Like, yes, it's hard, but women have it so a lot harder.
No,
like,
this is why I love having men on, because even when I'm just like not talking to anybody on the show and it's just like me talking to the audience, my language tends to be geared towards by like saying women or deal with this and like it affects a lot of women, like, but I also have to remind myself that like, no, eating disorders also affect men. Men have poor body image, they can have body dysmorphia, they can go through all the same things. It just, and I it's just because I think men don't really realize it. Like I had Chris Metcalf on the show when very early on in the show, and he's like, you sent me the questions and I realized I used to make myself throw up after I ate.
Oh, God.
And he's like, I literally just like on the train over had this realization that I was like bulimic.
Yeah.
And it's just, like, I think it's because maybe in general, it's just not, there's no focus on men. So you don't even need to feel the need of like, oh, it's 100 times harder for women. It's something you experience.
Yeah, no, which I appreciate, like you acknowledging it as well. So I'm in college and I'm trying to do all that. And then I end up graduating and I relatively maintain that. But again, I'm like killing myself to go to the gym and doing whatever. And then the pandemic hits. And I just dig into food. I mean, like all I did was watch Uber Eats and The Sopranos, which like now that I'm at a place where I love myself, I've like, that was a great time in my life. I wish like,
I partied down.
I loved it.
Yeah.
But I used to do that and I ended up on the side of obesity. So I went to weigh myself at the doctor. I think in college I was around, let's say 145 pounds. Can we throw out numbers? Is that okay?
That's fine.
So I was 145 pounds. At the pandemic, I was 190 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And it was really interesting because I was actually dating someone at the time who had also an interesting weight-centric journey. She was someone who had previously been obese as well and then lost a ton of weight. And something that happened to her that you actually mentioned again on the Jess Levin episode was that men treated her totally differently.
Yeah.
Like and I remember really thinking about that when she told me. She said like men wouldn't even open doors for her, and then as soon as she lost the weight, she was getting like so much attention. Yeah. So, and what's funny is like at that time she was really, she had she was into bigger men. So to me, I was like, oh great, like
jackpot.
I'm doing great, like whatever. I can like myself because she likes me.
Totally.
Right?
That's where you were getting your validation from.
100%. So we end up breaking up. And then in the pandemic, here I am. I'm 190 something pounds. And it's not like muscle. It's not like, I was obese. So then I say, okay, I want to get back to my college body. That becomes my goal.
Right.
Because at the time, I'm very lonely. I'm not really talking to many people. A lot of us were isolated during the pandemic. So I'm like, okay, if I get back to college weight, I can love myself again, which will make me like more attracted to the like women, because that's what it was. Just everything in my body image was like motivated by, women. And then what I think is funny is I look back on all the women I've dated in my life. None of them have dated me for my body, no matter what state I've been in.
Right.
Like I have a joke that I used to tell where it's my current girlfriend who, gonna be fiance, which is I'm very excited.
I hope she doesn't listen to this.
When does this come out, by the way?
Friday.
Oh, Friday? Okay, no, it's okay. It's okay.
Tomorrow.
We have a
literally tomorrow.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
Thursday.
No, that's so cool. And I'm glad I asked because I actually have a thing with that where, when we can jump back to the story in a second.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to talk to you about today is, it's very open. We have plans that like I'm going to propose.
Right.
And one of the things that I was really struggling with was I was like, okay, I'm going to lose some weight before I propose because I want to look, better and whatever. So I had that plan back in like October, and I don't lose any weight during the holidays, which, by the way, nobody should have that expectation.
No, nobody.
I literally said that to, again, my friend Catherine Duffy, and she laughed in my face. She was like, you are not good. Like, and it's not a strike against anybody. It's just impossible.
Right.
Because you have Thanksgiving, then most people go home and, snacks and stuff like that. So it was just, I had this ridiculous expectation. So I was really disappointed in myself. I was like, I didn't lose the weight. So now I can't.
Now I have to
like postpone it.
Stop a major milestone in my life.
Exactly. And then I'm very happy. I ended up talking to one of my female friends, Steph Brown, who's a fantastic comedian. I asked her, I was like, Steph, is this silly? Should I wait? And she was like, why are you going to, if it's something you want to do, why are you going to put it off just to like lose a few pounds for like a few pictures? And I was like, that is so right. Like, and
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because there are probably so many people that can relate to that feeling of like, when I lose the weight, I will be able to insert whatever, like try to find a new job, take that trip, start comedy. Like there's always something that's going like there when you struggle with your weight, there is always something that you're putting off because you envision yourself doing it in the body that you want.
100%. And you know what's funny is what I realize now, having my body fluctuated so much, is whatever I've had the same. To me, I've looked the same since college, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to.
Totally.
I did not feel any different. I did not, to me, look any different, because I did not change that self-image I had in my head. Mm-hmm. So when I was more muscular and when I quote unquote like had some abs, I was like, I don't have anything. I don't have.
Yeah, these are AI.
Yeah, these are AI abs.
Yeah,
they are not real. So anyway, so in the pandemic, right? I'm obese and I'm alone at this point. So, I end up going so hard back to the gym, right? So in college, I was relatively muscular. I think on the bench press, I could put up my weight. I was like 145, 150 pounds, which is pretty good, right? This time now, I go hard. I spend the next year or two really trying to beef myself up and put it on as much muscle as possible.
Yeah.
I end up losing from 190 pounds. I go back down to 140 pounds. To my college weight. And I remember when I hit 140 on the scale, I thought, oh my God, I'm so fucking exhausted.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm so tired all the time from not eating, from watching my calorie intake and trying to get enough protein, which like any bodybuilder on YouTube's like, you need 2 times your body weight or 1.5. I'm like, I can't reach that. I can't just eat salmon. Right. I can't do it. But I would go to, which feels like a sin now, I would go to Chick-fil-A and just get 2 packs of the grilled nuggets. Yeah. That's not a Chick-fil-A order.
That's not a Chick-fil-A meal.
That's not Chick-fil-A.
You're spending Chick-fil-A money and not getting a Chick-fil-A meal.
Exactly. No sauce, too.
The no sauce.
I know.
And that's where all the calories
And that's where all the calories are. So, like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
But I put on, like, a ton of muscle. Like, I'm 140, 145 at this point. I'm deadlifting 350 pounds.
Wow.
I'm putting 285 up on the bench press. Like, I'm very in shape. But to our point, what we had said earlier, I don't feel any different about myself. My confidence is, like, fine. Like, like, whatever. But then I actually, when I'm around this weight... Hello, Vinny. You are
so sorry. He's always interrupting.
I love dogs so much, so I'm so used to it. I love it. But then while I'm around this weight, I meet my girlfriend in Pier 13 in Hoboken. And at the time she's still great. She has such a healthy body image and like everything. She is so good to me in that sense. We meet and we both share, like we both like to work out to feel good now.
Yeah.
Which I'll get to. But we meet and, of course, like during the course of a relationship, like I just start to, I'm not working out as much before because again, when I found my person, I'm like, well, I don't have a motivation to work out anymore because I'm already being validated by a woman, which is why I got into this like in the first place. So I end up gaining a lot of the weight back. So, which puts me at and then I went to the doctor last year and I'm back up to like 199.
Yep.
But it's a different 199 because I still have the muscle mass I put on from before, and it's not total, and I'm not totally like out of shape, if that makes sense.
No, the way it looks on your body is different.
Totally. And what's really nice is I've kind of come around to having a much better relationship with food. Like my girlfriend hates counting calories. She is so against it. She's like, just eat. It's what you're eating.
Yes.
That is so important, which is not talked about enough.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of really, I feel like so many people get their advice from like fitness influencers now, and everybody's like calories, which is true, but 1 calorie of a brownie is different than 1 calorie of like spinach.
Right.
So, I'd love to, I feel like you were about to go into something.
No, you're so on it. My entire For You page is girls hopping online and being like, this is what you're going to do if you want to lose weight. And like, they give like they give good advice. Like they're not giving advice that isn't going to work for some people, but diet culture is so ingrained in making money that it doesn't take into effect like how your body and how you like mentally can stick to that diet. Because something that jumped out of me when you were talking was how you said you finally stepped on the scale and saw the number that you had wanted to see, and you felt so exhausted. The fact that you had the stamina and the fortitude to stay on that unsustainable cycle of losing the weight is really a feat. And I know that that's what is celebrated in diet culture, and you ended up getting to the weight that you wanted to get, but you can't keep that going for forever. No. And that is something that even in my journey of doing this podcast is just like trying to figure out, what is it? Yeah. What is it that where am I trying to get so that I'm not like exhausted and, convincing myself that I'm eating enough food and that I'm not hungry. Because when I think about diets that I've done in the past, the one diet that has worked the best for me has been Weight Watchers. And every single time I would go to a Weight Watchers weigh-in and I saw the number that I wanted to see, because like the number was going down, I was so fucking hungry. Yeah. I was so hungry. And so I love what your girlfriend was saying about how she doesn't count calories. She like eats when she's hungry and eats what she wants to eat. And diet culture has made us feel so afraid to do that. Totally. Because we have convinced ourselves that if we eat what we want to eat, we will eat the unhealthiest foods imaginable. And that is categorically untrue.
Which, to that point, I feel like this is perfect because that's exactly what happened to me. I meet this girl, I'm in the best shape of my life, and she says, oh, you can just eat whatever you want, whenever you want. And I went ham.
Of course you did.
I was like, oh my God, I can do everything, like whatever. I ended up gaining the weight back. And then I kind of, but what's great about her is she will never tell me like, you have a problem. You're not, she's just like, make small adjustments. Yeah. If you know we're going to eat out on Friday, have a smaller lunch or like or work out, go for a run, which is the bigger thing. So, she's been so great in that respect, to the point now I'm really trying to exercise to feel good. To get that energy back. And I recently, because I'm a member at F45, which I really enjoy. And, the classes are super intense, but I actually started running to start the year off, and I'm just enjoying the kind of runner's high you get from it. Oh, so nice. It's so nice. I put on an audiobook. I was listening to Maria Bamford's book. Please join a call. Have you listened to it?
I haven't listened to it. I'll add it to my list.
Oh, yes, please. She's fantastic. So I've been listening to that while on my runs, and it's great because I come back feeling just better. Yeah. And I'm so much better now at being in tune to when I'm in a bad mood, and I'm like, I haven't exercised in 3 days. Yeah. I need to go on it tomorrow just so I can feel good. Because again, obviously, like I'm on meds for like anxiety and depression and stuff like that. And it's so important to keep that exercise regimen just for that sake of itself. Right. Forget how you look.
Well, I think when you said your girlfriend kind of introduced you to this idea of like eat what you want, and you ate whatever you wanted and you gained weight back. When you are somebody that has been in the binge restrictive cycle,
oh my God,
and you get told you can eat what you want, for some reason, it's like literally getting the golden ticket to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory.
That's how it feels.
And
Oh
you
my
just
God.
are like, I have free reign of this place. I'm going to go crazy. And like, yeah, in the beginning, that's probably going to happen because like people that are not in tune to their emotions and like have never attended a therapy session really don't understand how every single day we are protecting our inner child. Like so much of how we move through the world is a response from our childhood and like the ways that in our childhood we protected ourselves and didn't even know that's what we were doing. So like that's why if I'm somebody that if I get overwhelmed, I'll like start crying and I'll start yelling, and it's like that's like the 5-year-old in me like coming out, you know. And so like if you've binge restricted and then all of a sudden you can do what you want, so to speak, your part of you is servicing the 10-year-old, or I forget how old you said you were when like you may have heard that you might be obese, or like that your parents are worried about you being obese.
Yeah.
That's who you're servicing. And I think personally, again, I'm not a doctor. I've just been through a lot of therapy about this. And I think that is part of the healing process to actually learn and understand what it is that you want and what it is that you are needing, like what your body physiologically needs. Like I had a registered dietitian on the podcast who gave this example of is she a registered dietitian? She's an intuitive eating counselor. Sorry.
Okay.
Not registered dietitian, intuitive eating counselor. And she was saying how, she went on a trip abroad with her husband and they ate what they want the entire trip because, you're traveling. Sure. And she's like, when I got back to the States, I craved vegetables. Like I craved that. And so like you start to become more in tune with like actually craving a vegetable, and it's diet culture that makes us think that like you can't crave those kinds of things.
100%. And that's one of the things I'm realizing now, because now I just like to start my mornings with yogurt and granola. Yeah. And I crave that now when I wake up in the morning. And like this is my past calorie counting brain where I would, because I love granola. Yeah. I love dumping it in, whatever.
Chobani Flip.
Yes. Oh my God.
My fridge is filled with Chobani Flips.
It's so good. And then we have another bag that we get from Trader Joe's, which is vanilla almond
Love
granola.
That one.
So, oh my God, it's so good. And then there's the maple pecan one.
Oh yeah.
I'm
so
a
good.
sucker for pecan. Mm-hmm. Put them anywhere. I love them. And every morning I'll get up and I'll crave it. And then I remember going to Taylor. It's so nice being with her because it's like having an intuitive eating. It's living with an intuitive eating counselor. I was like, Taylor, I think I'm putting too much granola in. She goes, it's granola. Yeah. You'll be fine. Right. Which I'm like, oh, so if I want a little more granola, I can have a little more granola. Yep. And that's really like, and sometimes, that'll make me put less in, if that makes sense. Yeah,
you're too full. Because you put the granola in, and then maybe you realize like, oh, I was a little full from breakfast the day before.
100%.
And without even really thinking about it, you'll put less in, because when if I say to you, you can't have that, you automatically want it. I know. It's just psychological.
Yeah. And it's, oh my God. So we end up being together, and I gain the weight back, and I mean, she's amazing in the sense that, like I said, she doesn't push me to be any sort of type of way. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of hard at first because, and this is the superficiality of me, she has the craziest metabolism I've ever seen. We would eat the same and she'd be like, oh, I lost weight. Not like obviously in that tone, but you know what I mean?
No,
where I'm like,
totally.
Where I'm like, I'm over here struggling, and she's like, whatever. Yeah. But it's, I'm so that where I'm at in my journey is, being okay and accepting the way I look, even if I'm like maybe not the happiest with how I look. Like, would I like to be maybe 10 pounds less or something? Right. I think so, but more for health reasons. Yeah. Because I went to the doctor last year, my cholesterol was really, really high. Mm-hmm. So just trying to bring it down from that sense. And just allowing myself to have fun with her and do whatever, because our favorite thing is to order food. Yeah. That's our favorite way to spend quality time together and with the dog. Right. So, but I have to catch myself in these certain moments, because I'll give you an example. I need to get out of this, I love you said, like the binge cycle mentality. Yeah. Because like I'll still have nights where it's like, okay, this is our last night we're going to eat bad for the week, so I really got to make it count. And then we get a bad order from like End Pizza or something, and it doesn't satisfy it. I will go back the next night and I'll be like, okay, that didn't count. Tonight we do it.
Yeah.
Which is worse.
Right.
Because then it's like, and every time I check in with myself, I try to feel how my body feels after those binge meals, and I'm just like, did this solve that hole that I had? Like, am I still, and 9 times out of 10, I'm still craving something.
Right.
Like I could still eat for the sake of eating.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to be a little bit more in tune with that stuff because, I just, I want to, again, just more for the sake of being healthy.
Yeah.
So.
And it's just the biggest thing that I have to say when you're on that path of trying to figure it out, because I'm on that same path of just trying to like not beat myself up, not have this mentality of like all or nothing, is trying to trust myself.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. I can trust myself to know that if I, perfect example is Joe and I traveled for the holidays.
Where'd you guys go?
We went out to San Francisco to see his mom and his
Okay.
sister. And there when we were out there, I didn't have access to exercising besides like walking the dog.
Sure.
And if there was sugary soda, I would have the sugar soda. And I don't like to do the whole thing of this is the last day I'm doing this. But I did I do kind of negotiate with I did negotiate with myself a little bit when we were out west to say like, I can have this Coca-Cola on the airplane because I don't generally drink Coca-Cola.
Okay.
Yeah. And so like, because I trust myself to know that like, number one, if I end up having a full sugar Coke after this flight when I land back in New York, it's okay. The world is not going to end.
Yeah.
That being number one. And number two, really trust myself to know that like, I generally don't drink sugar soda. So like, yeah, when I'm on a flight in 36B, I'm having a Coca-Cola because that's what I want at the time or whatever, whatever it is. And so, I think that you just really have to like, it's just about trusting yourself and not beating yourself up.
And I'm really struggling. And again, I'm still learning. The big thing with me is I'm trying to learn to not beat myself up and to not make as many deals with myself. And I'll tell you a quick story of a time I made a deal with myself. So we were at a friend's wedding in Rhode Island. And the night before, I love a rehearsal dinner. My problem with weddings, and this is the thing, they make it an open bar the night before.
I know.
And I'm so excited to see everyone.
I
So
know.
I go ham at that.
No, totally.
And then the night of the wedding, I'm like, I'm not drinking today. I
No,
can't.
totally.
So I go ham.
Yeah.
The first night there. Everyone's there. It's hyped. It's amazing.
So exciting.
And so I have I binge drink the first night at this wedding in Rhode Island. We order Domino's, everything. It's amazing. I wake up the next day and I'm like, okay, I want to feel better. And since I had such a bad night, I'm going to go for a 3-mile run. And that's going to be my good thing in between the two bad.
Offset, yeah.
To offset. That was my mentality. I'm going to offset what I just did.
Mm-hmm.
I go for the run, and the humidity in Rhode Island that day is like 100. It's 100%. I get off the run, and I start feeling woozy. I went with some friends, and like a buddy picked us up like at the 3-mile mark, and I'm feeling woozy in the car. I asked my friend to like some water. I go back, and the wedding is in an hour and a half, so everyone's just going back to get changed and shower. I physically couldn't get dressed.
Oh my gosh.
I couldn't put my shirt over my head, and I was hallucinating in the room. And I start to think, oh my God, this isn't good. I called Taylor up because I was with her. I'm like, I thought I saw a man in the corner, a man in a top hat in the corner of the room.
Oh my God, you saw the hat man.
I know the hat man. He was there. He's been following me for years.
Oh my God.
And so I thought I saw something, and then I don't feel good. I run outside. She has to help me get dressed. So I'm like half dressed, whatever, vomit all over the lawn.
Yeah.
I go inside the house. Everyone's like dressed, ready to go. I'm like, I'm physically not well. And I'm like, I have to go.
Right.
I have to be there. Taylor goes, we are not taking the risk of you throwing up in the middle of the ceremony.
Oh my God.
We'll go to the reception.
Yeah.
She puts like an ice pack on my head. God bless her. She like took care of me. I pass out for 2 hours. I missed the ceremony. And I try to get up to go to the reception. I'm still wobbly. I call my brother who's a doctor. He's like, you have severe dehydration. You need to go to the hospital. We spent the night in the ER. I missed the entire wedding.
Oh my
Because
God.
I made this deal with myself and I was not taking care of what my body needed.
Yep.
I did not drink enough water. Had I just done that, my body would have been better taken care of. But because I had this deal in my mind where I was like, I'm going to do the good thing to offset the bad thing, I missed their wedding. And honestly, to my credit, did a great job of missing it because they did not notice. Which I think Rob, who's my good friend, he was like, where's Matt for one picture? And then my high school friends were like, let's all take the picture. And then they forgot about it. But he ended up texting me after the wedding. Very nice. And he checked in like the next week and stuff like with me. So he's a very good friend of mine. But yeah, I missed the entire wedding because of that.
Yeah. No, I mean, that would be, was that a wake up call?
You know, that's a good question. You know what was a wake-up call? I have another comedian friend. His name is Alex Ives. And I told him that story. And he goes, that's humbling. And I wasn't until he said that. And I was like, oh, man, it is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, yeah, that did happen because I'm close to 30 and really not taking care of myself. So, yeah. In hindsight, it's definitely very humbling.
No, because that's so true. Like the whole, being a little bit older part. Because when you were 22, 100% could have done that.
Yeah.
And it not have been an issue.
100%. And yes, so you're actually 100% right. One thing I did want to ask you, just because we're talking a little bit about like fad diets and stuff. Have you ever done keto?
Of course.
Isn't that such a scam?
Such a scam.
It's such and I watch so many Today Show segments of like Dr. Oz coming on and like doing whatever.
I know.
And I don't want to be like vulgar on the pod.
No,
but, like,
please.
Just some of the health benefits or not benefits, I just say, from a health standpoint.
Yeah.
A diet with no fiber?
Awful.
Are you kidding me?
Awful.
Kelly, there was blood in my stool.
No.
And you can take that out if you want. But
no, that's a real thing.
Yeah, nobody told me that. I remember I was traveling for work at the time, so I was already again dehydrated. I really need to drink more water.
Yeah.
I was dehydrated from like plane rides or whatever, and I was on keto because I was like, I can only eat like crap on the road, so I'm just gonna have like whatever. Just blood. And
literally.
I was like, this is what the hell
It's
am I
awful
doing?
for your body. You should I'm saying all of this not as a doctor and like not as somebody, like we don't have any sort of like health things where,
Sure.
you need to cut out something of your diet.
Yes.
But anytime you're cutting out any major food group, you're like, you're not doing it correctly,
100%. And again, it's not like does that diet work? Probably under like supervised conditions where you're working with a nutritionist, taking in the right supplements and stuff like that. But as a man, I can't do that. Like, as a 22-year-old idiot who's just trying to be like, oh, I'm going to eat bacon and cheese and that's going to be my diet. No, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So
I would love to see a graph of like keto diet becoming popular and colon cancer is on the rise.
Yes.
Like legitimately.
Oh my God.
Legitimately.
And that's another one of my biggest fears because my family has a history of colon cancer.
There
and
you
I actually
go.
just had someone on my podcast talk about they had ulcerative colitis.
Really?
And yeah, he went around. His name is actually Matty Bowles. He's a fantastic follow. And actually, he's really interesting because his whole thing now is he posts these videos like what I eat in a day without a colon. And it's all normal foods.
Yeah.
And he's just like very regimented about it. But,
well, I might have him on the pod.
Oh my God, can I hook you guys up?
Please.
I
would love an intro.
He's such a great person too.
Amazing.
Great.
Yeah. So, you mentioned before how you now are having this relationship with exercise where you just want to feel good.
Sure. Yeah.
And I want to be careful in how I talk about this only because like there's something about for myself, anytime in my early 20s, my teens, when I would start a new diet or like start an exercise regimen or start a meditation regimen, whatever it is, I can be a little bit evangelical about it and like be like, oh, you have to read this book. You have to try this diet. You have to do this. Like whatever. Like I get like, I get evangelical about it. I need to convert everybody to be into this great new thing that I'm doing. And so my latest kick that I'm on is Pure Barre because it's like the bar classes.
Yes. Yeah.
It's kind of like Pilates, but it's not quite Pilates. I got a new job. And within the health benefits is like discounts to gyms,
which I love. That's great.
I know.
Do you like it?
I love it.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
I love it. And like I always had this relationship with exercise when I got to it was sometime after the pandemic where I had such an aversion to exercise. Like,
Okay.
I can't explain it. It's something that like I talk about in therapy like every day.
Can I ask you,
Yeah.
not to interrupt your train of thought, but I love this. Do you think it has, because a lot of times I think I have like an addictive personality, and sometimes like if I haven't been to an F45 class in a while, I'll be like, I can't go. Like
Totally.
like, you know what I mean? And I'm with you. I can't really explain why, but I'm like, if I'm not in the rhythm of doing it, I'll be like, I can't go.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. And that leads me to this whole point with, basically the day after Thanksgiving, Joe and I didn't do anything for Thanksgiving. We like went to dinner in Manhattan, which
Very
was
nice.
lovely. It was so
Yeah,
nice not having to go anywhere.
And I bet it was quiet.
It was quiet.
That's
It was
nice.
lovely. The city was getting very Christmassy, and it was Thanksgiving evening, and I'm just like sitting on the couch, very grateful that I have this like long weekend coming up, and I'm like, oh, I have the health benefits through work. Like, let me take a look at this stuff, and I see that I have like I can go to cycle class in my neighborhood. I can go to yoga. I can try out Pure Barre, and like I don't know what it was, but I just had this thought in my head of like, I want more mobility. Like I want
Yes.
more mobility. I want to
Oh
be
my
able
God.
to touch my toes, like I just,
Yeah.
these things that like I took for granted for like in my 20s that like all of a sudden I didn't have access to anymore. I was like, no, I want to be able to like recoil if I have to like jump up and run away. The subways are crazy these days.
Oh,
I want to
yeah.
be able to like, be a person that can defend myself. I don't know, crazy thoughts of just like, I want to be able to move. So I signed up for the bar class after sitting right here on this couch, looking on like everything I can about Pure Barre.
Sure.
Going in Reddit threads. Like I'm going from no exercising to my first Pure Barre class. What can I expect? Like
Yeah.
crazy, crazy, crazy. And I go to the first class and I just all of a sudden had this feeling of like, I just want to get better at this. And I told myself,
love that.
I'm not going to get on the scale. I am not going to be tracking any kind of weight loss. Like I am going into this with the thought of like, if I don't lose a single pound, that is okay. Because if I'm going and I'm exercising, I'm still going to all of a sudden be able to like bend a little bit more. And I'm
Yeah.
not going to like get exasperated. I'm not going to lose my breath. I can like go from my front door up to here and not be out of breath. And because I tried my best to take the weight loss part out of it, I've been able to consistently wake up at 7 a.m.,
Yep.
go to bar class, and then go to work for the day.
And you know what? I bet it's also too because you have that new perspective. Like this is for you. This
Yes.
is not for anything other than to feel good about myself, to get that mobility back.
Mm-hmm.
And when you said that, I think you said it so beautifully because you hit on something that happens when you get closer to 30 is like I go for runs now and I'll take a little edible before I go.
You got to make it fun.
Have a little fun.
Yeah.
But I just feel like a kid when I was playing like football and stickball with my friends, just being like in the open, like just out of breath.
Yeah.
Like just getting that back is
Yeah.
really, really such a great feeling. And like for me, like I had similar mobility issues too, where somewhere in that journey we talked about, I think it was during the 190, like my first step into obesity, I had severe back pain and I got x-rays done and they were like, structurally, everything's fine. And if anybody's listening and is also overweight and suffering back pain, I can only talk about like from experience, but what I think it is, if you go and they don't tell you it's anything structural, because they prescribed me physical therapy and I was like, and then I was like, physical therapy is going to be this magic thing. And it was like just exercising.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I can do this.
Yeah.
Which got me back into it.
And you don't have to go through insurance.
Right. And you don't have to go through insurance. And then, but like for me, my back pain went away when I didn't have, like my stomach wasn't as big.
Right.
Because I think what happened was my back was overcompensating for that extra weight around my midsection. So that helped. So if anyone's suffering from like severe back pain, that might, and has
it's like a woman complaining about big boobs. She's like, you have no idea what this does to my back.
Oh
and you're
my
like,
God.
please, I get it.
But oh my God, I love just bringing it back. So now you've been going consistently in the morning?
Yeah, I've been going in the morning and tying it back to what you said about like, what is it called? F45?
F45.
So if you don't go to an F45 class, let's say something happens, you don't go for 2 weeks. It's like, can I go back?
Exactly. And that's where I'm at right now. Exactly.
I've been confronted with those moments in this where it's like I go to bar class like 2 to 4 times a week. And then, you know, we had to travel for the holidays. And then I look at my app and I'm like, fuck, it's been 10 days since I've done a bar class. Like, my old self, my less healed version of myself, that's done. I'm never going back. I am literally never going back. And I just was like, okay, instead of going directly to bar, I'm going to go to yoga because I want to be able to move my body. Yep. I want to be able to move and feel. And then timing wise, it ended up working out where like I did like a cycle class where like I didn't give a shit if I did well or not. But and then I was like, okay, I've done 2 exercises since the 10 days of being off. I'm going to go back to bar. It was a tough class, but I fucking did it. Yeah. And it's just one of those things. And it like, it's all about rebuilding new neural pathways in your brain of our relationship to this shit.
100%.
It's just, isn't it crazy?
It's so, and I feel it. And the other thing that nobody talks about is that takes so long. It takes a very long time of consistency to the point where you won't notice you've changed. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I remember when I went on medication, I thought this was like a perfect analogy. My psychiatrist at the time was like, you're going to take this medication. And you know how when you have a headache and then you don't realize, and then like a few hours later go by and you're like, oh, I don't have the headache anymore. Like you didn't even notice it went away. It's kind of like that almost. It feels like, you know.
I love that.
But you said something really interesting, which I haven't thought about in my classes. So I want to get into a little bit with you, which is like you were talking about like your performance at the class. Like I'm going to do well at this class.
Yeah.
Which I just haven't heard that before. I think that's so interesting.
Yeah. So not that I like, it's like when I go to bar, my barometer of like doing well is because not every single class is exactly the same because like a different instructor will take us through different moves.
Yep.
And so sometimes there'll be a move that like I haven't seen in like a week and a half and then all of a sudden we're doing it and I have that ability to do the move. I'm not be able to do it for all of the reps that she's doing it or whatever the case may be. But when I think about where I was in that very first class and how we were 90 seconds into the warm up and I thought, I fucked up. Like, why am I here? Like, I am not going to be able to do this. And I made it through the class. I stayed the whole time. But like, there'd be times where like I would just try to do a move and not do it because like my hip flexor literally wouldn't hinge my leg forward.
Sure.
And now like this morning I'm in a bar class and there are still things that I can't do perfectly and properly, but like I can do that thing from that first class better now. And so like I know I mentioned with that cycle class, like, oh, I don't care how I do. Like I think that there is a competitive nature to me where like I want to do like I think that's a lot of like the motivating factor for me throughout my life that I hadn't realized was always there. Like, cause I did, track and cross country when I was in high school. And I remember my freshman year, I was the only freshman on the team. And that was like the thing that kept me on.
Oh, that's really
the track team. Because I was the only freshman.
And so you felt that you needed to overcompensate and be better to compete with these people.
But I also liked the individuality of like I didn't go to a very big high school. So it's like out of these 100 freshmen, I'm the one that's doing it.
Yes.
None of these other bitches are doing it.
100%. Can I tell you a secret?
Yeah.
Not a secret, but I used to be on the diving team. And again, I was the only diver in the entire school.
Yeah.
And so like to that point, I guess a little different because I wasn't competing with my peers. But at the time it was, I was like, I'm the only one doing this right now. I have this responsibility.
Well, you know, and even I think it's more the same because like we weren't really competing against each other because like everything would be a personal goal. Like I wanted to improve my mile. I wanted my friends to do well on their mile too. But like, I don't know. I just felt cool. I felt individual. I felt like better. And much of like what I've done in my life is because I have this, like, in the back of my mind, this feeling of superiority, which is like a complete complex, but it has been this motivating factor. You know, I'm not in anyone's face about it.
Yeah.
But it's just we're wired how we're wired.
100%. And you bring up a really interesting point, which is like, especially when we're talking about like weight-centric things, right? Where it's, oh, if I'm thinner than other people, or if I'm more muscular than other people, there, you know, obviously we're human beings. You're wired to think that you are superior in that sense. But to your point, it is just a complex, and the only person you should really be comparing yourself to is the person in the mirror.
Yeah.
I remember working out with that bodybuilder guy that, you know, has competed nationally in weightlifting. And I remember just like one day after we work out, I was like, oh, like I'm not as big, whatever. And he like, it's like such a movie out of like it's a scene out of like a Vin Diesel movie where he's like taps him on the shoulder. He's like, hey buddy, the only one you're competing with is that guy. And he points to the mirror. And I was like, there was another guy that worked out with us. This is crazy. It's like he would call himself the Storm, and he'd be like, there's a storm coming. I'd be like, what is it? He's like, I am the storm. I was like, you did not just say that. That is very strange, but that's 100% true. But you get those kind of characters. But
yeah,
what I do love that, you know, you're saying is it's totally normal as a human being to have that kind of senses. Obviously, it's a complex we make up with ourselves, but we need to really, I'm so big now. My new thing, because everybody just compares to everybody on Instagram, TikTok, everything. Just compare yourself. Gary Goldman says it really beautifully. He did a podcast with Mike Birbiglia, and two of my favorites. And he actually said, it's so easy. This is within comedy. It's so easy to talk yourself out of comedy and be like, all these people are so much better than me. Just compare yourself to how you were a year or two ago.
Yeah.
And like use that as the bar. And I think that's a beautiful thing for anything, even if it's like not comedy.
No, that was a piece of advice I got very early on, was have horse blinders on.
Love that.
Have horse blinders on when it comes to comedy, because you are going to get distracted at what everyone else is doing.
100%.
And everyone's going to make it seem like they're doing the best and having the best time. And it's funny because if I go to a party and it's just an okay party, but someone posts pictures from the party, it looks like the greatest party ever. And I was at the party, and I remember thinking, this is just an okay party, but I see the photos, and I know, like, I remember that, but then I see photos from a different party that I wasn't at, and I forget.
It's just a stupid thing,
I know.
like, comparison. And
I mean, it's so hard not to, though. It's like I really need to take my own advice with the horse blinders thing. But it's so easy for us to equate it to comedy, but it really is with everything in life. Like I'm not a salesperson, but for my new job, the New York office they got for the salespeople, and I'm the only account manager based in New York, so I go and I go to the office like everyone else. So I'm doing my own thing while the, 12 salespeople who are all in their 20s, the youngest one is like 21 and the oldest one is 28. And so they are, sorry, I lost my train of thought. So, I hear them on sales calls, and they're all so new. They only started like 2 months ago. So some of them don't have any sales yet, while others are like bringing in deals.
Oh, so you're seeing it happen like
and
in
so
real
I'm
time.
seeing it happen where it's not overt, but I can understand how frustrating it must be to be like, I'm making just as many calls as everybody else. I'm saying the same thing as everybody else, yet I'm not closing anything. And that is so frustrating because, I mean, it's also at work. So it's like, oh, I'm going to get fired if I don't make a sale. Not my job is fantastic. They would sooner help you before fire you. But still, like, the catastrophic thinking comes in and everything. And so I could totally, like, I see some of the girls that haven't had sales yet where it's just like, honey, have horse blinders on, like, ask for help and, like, keep doing your thing. You're eventually going to get a sale and they're all just going to come in. So it really is with anything,
It's so cool how you get it's a cool example because I think it's really kind of like a microcosm of what we're talking about in like in a office environment.
Right.
The other thing I want to bring up is like what's really helped me, because I really struggled with it this past year, is when you accept that your journey is going to be different than everyone else's, accept it and really be open to the beauty in that. that someone else's path is not yours, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And that frees you to really do things yourself and do things for yourself. And obviously, what makes it 10 times worse is obviously social media, because everyone
It's a different game now.
It is really a different game, and it's just so, to your point, it's seeing all these great comics like booked on shows and things like that, and you think you're not doing enough, like as a just, you know, like you said, horse blinders.
Yeah.
And just focus on the work. Another thing that I really heard that kind of helps me with that is, I heard this another great quote. Again, I'm quoting a Mike Birbiglia podcast, but I love him. He had a guest on that said, "You're entitled to the work. You are not entitled to the benefits or the rewards of that." So
Ooh,
just
I love that.
Just focus on the work, and then whatever comes, just have gratitude towards that.
Oh,
isn't that great?
oh my God,
isn't
that
so good?
That
I
hit
know.
me like a ton of bricks.
Oh, I'm so happy because it did the same for me. I
Yeah.
was like, that's so beautiful, the work, and then again, just because I feel like it forces you to have gratitude when and if those rewards come.
Yes.
That's
And I think that like gratitude, it sounds so cheesy.
It's so cheesy.
But I think gratitude is like the major key. It is the key to unlocking the truths and the fruits of the universe. 100%. I really, really do believe that. And yet it is the hardest thing. It is the hardest state to stay within.
Yes.
It is so hard to remain grateful.
Yeah.
It is so hard for me. I know it is, because I will, even if I try and exercise where like I try to write down 3 things I'm grateful for, it can be hard to come up with, which is insane.
No, it is and it isn't, right? Because I totally hear where you're coming from. And I had a therapist recommend to me, like, a journal entry can just be, what are you grateful for today?
Right.
And that's really, like, been helpful. But it's so elusive. And it's like because I've had days where it's like, okay, I'm grateful for my health, my girlfriend, my dog. And it's like, okay, like, yes, I am, but I don't feel that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's really to get to that feeling stage. But I think it's one of those things, it's fake it till you make it, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Just keep telling yourself that you are, and eventually you'll feel that way. Fake it till you make it. The greatest advice anyone can give anybody.
No,
in anything.
truly.
It really is. It's like, just, oh my God.
Yeah. And as we're talking, it's reminding me of at the top of the show, you talked about how you kind of like manifested the life that you have now. Sure. And I don't know what you went into, when you kind of consciously decided, oh, I'm going to manifest this life. If on the roadmap of your manifestation was, okay, get a girlfriend that I'm going to marry,
sure,
like be the healthiest I can be. It's kind of insane that like you started dating somebody that introduced these new habits of eating and exercising. I haven't even thought about this. Yes. And how it's like, that's mystical.
And can I also, I want to talk about this too, more on the dating side. One, I love that because I didn't even realize that, but I think you're absolutely right. But I also want to say, because dating I think is insanely superficial right now, especially with apps and stuff like that. Like I've met girls, had great times with them, and they're like, oh, he's 5'6", I don't want to go out with him, I can't date him. Which, fine, everyone to each their own. Right. But like I would say this if Taylor was in the room, I've told her this multiple times and we kind of joke about it. Taylor's not my typical physical type. Right. She's a redheaded, kind of, slender figure, and I typically go for brunettes. Right. And what I decided we were going to go on some dates and I'm going to give this a shot. And I said, I'm not going to go off the physical. I'm going to look at who the person is. And she has been the person I've been looking for my entire life. And I would not have found that if I was like, oh, she doesn't have brown hair. Like I can't, you know what I mean? And especially today, it's absolutely, and I have so many, and yeah, men are terrible with this too. I have so many guy friends that are like, disqualify certain women just, based on obviously looks and stuff like that. But just give it a shot. Yeah. If you're, figure out what's important to you. Yeah. Yeah. Superficial dating is, we think that's, and we're also like, you're in your 20s when you're doing the superficial dating, right. And there was never a world in which I would have entertained going out with a guy that I think Joe's like, I always forget how tall he is, but like I think he's 5'4", like he's so short. And I never would have entertained a world in which... Is that true? Wow. Oh never. Wow. Never. Like, I would never entertain dating a guy. Because
it has nothing to do with the shortness of the guy and it being a knock against him. It's about how I felt about myself.
Yes.
I feel like I'm a fucking monster. I'm 5'8" and a half, really, and like I feel like I have this huge, stature, and so I'd be like, like Godzilla, like just huge.
Sure.
And I don't. I wonder, would I have swiped on Joe on a dating app?
You guys been on a dating app?
No, would I have though?
Oh, would you have?
Would I have
Okay.
swiped on him?
Taylor has told me no multiple times.
I
so
feel like
yeah.
I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
And like, Joe and I met through comedy. We were friends first, and like
Great way to meet people.
great
That's-
way to
yeah.
meet people. And I knew he
Did he
liked
ask
me.
you out?
He asked me
Nice.
out. I knew that he liked me, and I just kind of like got to a place where I was like, you know what? If he asked me out, I'm gonna say yes.
Yes. And
I'm
you-
gonna say yes.
And you know what, Kelly? If it doesn't, because I had a friend, he was like, maybe debating dating this girl. He's like, should I go out with her? I said, give it 3 months.
Yeah.
Because you know what? At the end of 3 months, no one gets hurt too bad. And if you're really not, you'll know at that point. Like, if you can give it like a real shot.
Yeah.
Just give it a chance.
Yep.
Even if they don't check every box, because no one's going to check every box.
Yeah.
And
And you're gonna learn. Someone could be Mr. Miss Perfect, and then you date them for 3 months, and then all of a sudden you learn things about them. You learn things
Yes.
about their family. You learn
Yeah.
things about just Joe. It's so funny. I think back to when I was just like I understand how this is going to sound. This is not what I mean. But I think back to when I was just a prize for Joe, where he like really just wanted me and like didn't,
Oh, that's cute. Yeah.
we weren't dating. I wasn't into him. He liked me. And I, was just like, oh, he's my friend. And now I think about where we are like over 3 years into this relationship. And like, he probably never anticipated that I would be like, that I would have my father's rage, like he probably never understood that was part of the package.
Sure.
You learn that about people.
Yes, and this is the other thing too is, and again, sounds cliche and cheesy, you have to find someone to put the work in with.
Yeah.
Because relationships are work, and if your relationship is based on physical attraction, which that seems to be where dating goes, you don't have the tools of the foundation to get past when you really get to know each other.
Yeah.
Because my girlfriend and I, we've had to evolve how we both fight, how we go out each other. Like, go at each other sounds aggressive, but you know what I mean?
No,
Like,
no, totally.
you have to understand, how the other person ticks and things like that.
Yeah.
That's so funny. You have your father's rage. Oh my God. That's
Just like a hothead, just like an overwhelmed, like
no, I'm the same
crazy
way because
person.
I will explode at like the drop of a hat or
Right.
something. And
just because I had a hard day.
yeah, exactly. And Taylor and I have also worked on it, but like Taylor knows that, and she can be like, what's really bothering you? Like, and then I can be honest with her, which is
Yeah.
a gift. I can say, I'm thinking about this and it's getting me whatever. And then she'll kind of bring me back down.
Right.
But you can't do that with a person if you don't like who they are on the inside. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like if they
no,
don't have
absolutely.
Those, so I just think with dating now specifically, and it's so easy for me to say this now because I'm off the apps, but
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I don't like the apps.
It sucks.
My self-esteem was in the garbage when I was on the apps.
Awful.
It's it is just, it's a horrible place to be. So I feel for you for like people that are like dating.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like it's a horrible time to try and meet. Obviously, like you're more connected than ever, and some people meet on dating apps and like more power to you. But like for me, it was awful.
No, I definitely know plenty of success stories, but I have to tell you, the people that I know are success stories treated the dating app like I don't want to say a game, but we're at it. Like I want my
Yeah.
one friend who now is like married with a baby on the way. Like I want my one friend to literally write a book because she would like journal about the dates that she had after
That's
going on
fun.
them. And
Yeah.
she's like, I just have a notebook of like these random guys. She was living in Hoboken.
You're kidding. Oh,
Yeah.
I love that.
And just the crazy stories. And so like seriously, the friends that I know, not all of them, but the friends that I know that like were on the dating apps, like dated.
Yes.
Like dated. It was a
Yes.
numbers game. It was a numbers game. And not in like a weird way. In like
No, but
that didn't work out. He's ghosting me. On to the next one.
It
On the
is-
next one.
It is a numbers game. Like
Yeah.
when you put it in that perspective, it is.
Yeah.
And like I used to say, and I don't know if this is like controversial or whatever, I used to say dating's a skill.
Yeah.
Like it's, and I don't mean that to say like, but you have to be open to learning new people, and that takes time to develop and, like doing all that stuff. You said something very interesting, which I'm forgetting, but we were talking about your friend, Hoboken, which came up. Oh my
just
goodness.
dating a ton.
Dating a ton.
There was something else that we're both losing our train of thought because there was something else that I wanted to say about it.
Oh, the Notebook. Oh,
yeah.
Yes. Okay, so the Notebook you brought up, which is fantastic, and I love that so much. Publish a book, tell your friend.
No, seriously.
I would absolutely read it. But like, also too, there were things in my relationship early on where I was like, I don't know if this is going to work out because of this.
Right.
Like, I would say this to my girlfriends in the room, but we were not sexually compatible at
right.
the beginning. And we had to work on that.
Yeah.
Which like totally, but again, you need to find the person that you can work on that stuff with.
Totally.
You know what I mean? So
seriously. And like, that's something that's not talked about enough.
Yes.
Because like people just think like, oh, it's supposed like all of this is supposed to fall into place because like in your wedding vows, you're not talking about that kind of stuff,
It's
like
a highlight reel now.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
On Instagram and everything. And people, I think, and that's why I really love this podcast, because you can get into this type of thing where it's, we had fights early on about like, and we almost broke up in the beginning. Yeah. Because of like these conversations, but like very mature conversations. Like we would sit down and say, we need to work on this and X, Y, Z. And it leads to a lot of, we have to work on ourselves to make this work. Mm-hmm. And but you have to find someone that you're willing to do that for. I think is the big one.
Yeah. And it's willing to do that for.
Yes.
Like you want to do it for the other person. 1000%.
Yeah.
And I think the perfect bow to put at the end of this conversation is the fact that we just, talked about all of this about, being in this relationship and how it's going to progress to the next level. And yet you were putting it off till you were at a goal weight.
I love it. I love it. No, I love it. No, because you're so right. And here I am, because I've been like thinking about it, and like I'm trying to really get back to my inner child, like my 10-year-old self, 11. I was watching How I Met Your Mother, and I was like, how am I going to meet the mother of my kids? You know what I mean? And like trying to really get to that place before I do it. And I'm not going to do it because, and I'll tell you off mic how I'm going to do it, but because I'm very excited. But like, I'm not going to do it because I'm worried that, okay, my face is going to look a little chubby, and maybe 1 or 2 pictures we take. Like she does, I know some people do engagement photos, like stuff like that. And like, I think she wants that, but I know some people like hire a photographer for the event. Right. I don't think she even wants that. Like it would literally just be like a few, maybe ask someone where we are to like take a picture. Right. So, I'm so glad I had that conversation with the friend to be like, if it's something you want to do, just do it. You know, and it's, don't put it, and, because life is short, don't put it off, something really magical and special for this particular date that I have in mind, just because, again, I want to be a little thinner. Right, and because you're the only one thinking about that. 100%, and that's what my friend said to me as well. She's like, she's not going to be thinking about that. No. So. No, absolutely. Like, as you were saying that, I was thinking, like, it just Joe and I have been dating a while. You think about that kind of stuff, like, is marriage the next step? His body size is not even on the radar of like my thoughts and feelings towards getting married. Yes, 100%. As it shouldn't be. That should be the farthest thing. And no, I'm really lucky we like picked out a ring together, which is great. Oh my God. It's so fantastic. I'll show you pictures and stuff. So exciting. And it's so, oh my God. But I feel like we could talk for forever. I know, Kelly. No, that's why I'm so happy you asked me to be on. It's such a privilege to be on. You were like honestly one of my first comedian friends. Yes. And when you started this podcast, I've been following it. You're doing an amazing job. Thank you so much. I really tell your friends. I will 100%. I will. Yeah. And I'm literally going to a show, and I'm going to tell them all about you and to follow you. Are we at time or? You're gonna have to head out. Yes, soon. I got to head out soon. But oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, thank you for coming on. Can I plug a few things? Is that okay? That's what this is for. Beautiful. Plug away. Thank you so much. So follow me on Matt Pena Comedy on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. I'm working on a solo show that I'm going to be debuting this year. So if you go to any of my social media profiles, you can go to my link tree, sign up for my email list. That's where I'm going to be plugging everything. So amazing. Please do that. And we have a podcast coming out called The Low Point soon, which I'm going to have Kelly on at some point, where we're going to be talking about people's low points, difficult times in life, how they grew from the events, and how they became the people they are today. So I love it. Anywhere that you can find Matt will be in the description of the show notes. So please check that out. And until next week, bye.